When you go to the grocery store, you know exactly what you're paying for. You feel the cost of inflation in your bones and in your wallet. But there is a much larger receipt being printed right now in real time in the sands of the Middle East. And the bill is being mailed directly to you. Welcome back to Clear Signal. I'm David Tomsic. We don't do partisan noise here. We do math and solid analysis. Today we are auditing the Iran war. We're going to calculate the daily, weekly, and monthly burn rate of US dollars. We're going to take a look at the asymmetric math of multi-million-dollar missiles shooting down cheap drones. And then we are going to pull the camera back and compare that exact dollar amount to the domestic safety nets quietly being gutted right here at home. Because the numbers tell a story the politicians don't want to. Make sure you stick around until the end of the video, because after we go through the hard data, I'm going to give you some of my unfiltered commentary on what this means for the soul of our country. So let's take a look at the evidence. Wars aren't just fought with soldiers. They are also fought with spreadsheets and budgets. And right now the military budget is hemorrhaging capital, and the red ink will be placed squarely on the shoulders of the U.S. taxpayer. Let's break down the daily operating costs of this war on Iran. Now, just to keep a Navy carrier strike group in the region, not firing weapons, just floating there as a deterrent, cost the taxpayer roughly $6.5 to $7 million every single day. That's the baseline. But this war doesn't have many quiet days anymore. During peak escalations, that daily burn rate of dollars skyrockets to over $1 billion. You heard me right. That's $1 billion a day. Let's stretch that out. Weekly, the American taxpayer, that's you, is funding between $413 million and $7 billion. That's weekly. Monthly, we are looking at a staggering $1.8 billion to $30 billion every month. In just the first 48 hours of heavy kinetic defense during the recent escalations, the United States vaporized over $10 billion. Let that sink in. That's $10 billion gone. Up, literally in smoke, and you can't audit ashes. But this is where the math goes from expensive to completely unsustainable. Let's talk about the interceptor math. Iran and its proxies are playing a completely different financial game. They're launching drones that cost roughly $35,000 a piece to manufacture. They are essentially flying lawnmowers strapped with explosives. They can build them by the thousands in basic warehouses. When a threat escalates to ballistic missiles, we fire THADD missiles. A single THADD interceptor costs around $12.7 million. And the system required to fire them cost over $1 billion. And at least 4 of these have already been destroyed by the Iranians. Read the ledger back. We are spending $12.7 million to destroy something that cost well under $200,000. This is asymmetric financial war. We are losing the math. Because of this burn rate, we are rapidly depleting our interceptor stockpile. We have burned through roughly 30% of the U.S. THAAD inventory in record time. And here's the kicker. Lockheed Martin can only produce about 12 to 24 of these THAAD missiles a year. Someone tells me it's much less than 24. We are firing them faster than we can build them. We are literally running out of defensive missiles that cannot be quickly replaced. And beyond the dollars, we have to acknowledge the ultimate unrecoverable deficit: human life. Thousands of lives lost on both sides. Families shattered. From a purely analytical standpoint, this is human capital destroyed. These are lives that cannot be replaced by printing more money. That is the true, grim reality of the ledger. Mainstream media will not give you this math, especially when it comes to enemy combatants lost. They want you distracted by political theater while the vault is emptied out the back door. If you appreciate the content we provide you here on Clear Signal, please hit the subscribe button right now. Also hit the like button and share the video with as many people as you can. People who also want to know the truth about what's happening in our world today. Now let's look at what this war is costing you right here at home. So let's move to a bigger question. How do we pay for a $10 billion weekend in the Middle East? You don't just find that in the couch cushions, right? You have to take it from somewhere else. Now let's move to a bigger question. How do we pay for a $10 billion weekend in the Middle East? You just don't find it underneath your couch cushions. You have to take it from somewhere else. While Washington signs blank checks for THAAD missiles, look at what's happening to the domestic balance sheet. Look at the massive budget cuts passed by the Republican Congress. It was named the Big Beautiful Bill. It was supposed to offset our massive deficit. Well, it never did. But what it did do is nothing less than heartbreaking. Trump and the Republicans made massive cuts to social safety net programs such as SNAP and Medicaid, totaling nearly $1 billion over a 10-year period. Now let's average that out. That is roughly $90 billion removed from poor people who need the help, and giving rich people making over $500,000 a year a $1.1 trillion tax cut. So what does $90 billion look like? It looks like rural hospitals closing. It looks like reduced SNAP benefits. That's food assistance for the poor living on limited income. It looks like higher premiums for Medicaid, and for millions, no health insurance at all. We are cutting $90 billion a year from food and health care for the poor, the elderly, and the vulnerable. Compare the ledger. Side by side, we are pulling the ladder up on our own citizens to save $90 billion a year, while burning through $10 billion in 48 hours overseas. One THAAD missile fired into the sky equates to the annual food budget for thousands of struggling Americans. This brings us to the profound paradox, a crisis what I call financial theology. A massive portion of the demographics supporting these foreign wars are conservative voters, specifically within the Christian nationalist movement. These are communities that traditionally preach the values of looking after your neighbor, stewarding resources, and protecting the family. Yet there is overwhelming political support from this exact voting bloc for endless foreign military funding, simultaneously paired with support for gutting domestic social services. How did the pulpit become a PAC for defense contractors? It is the prioritization of perceived existential security over domestic welfare. This was the Republican presidential platform. This narrative has convinced millions of good, community-minded people that the threat abroad is so severe they must sacrifice the hospitals and food banks in their own zip codes to build a shield in the desert. They are paying a premium for a defense shield while the house behind the shield falls into disrepair. They are cheering for the defunding of their own communities. So where does this all lead us? Well, here's my clear signal prediction. If the war in Iran continues to escalate, we are going to hit an economic breaking point. The squeeze is coming. You cannot sustain an asymmetric war where you spend $12 million to swat a $200,000 bug out of the sky. Our interceptor shortages are already critical. The president has demanded defense contractors to build more, although they cannot. Either way, this means Washington will need more money. So where will they get it? They've already raided social safety net programs, the very programs needed to keep the middle class from collapsing. Well, they will need the Federal Reserve to print more money. And we know what happens then. When the Federal Reserve prints money, inflation will take over this country like we've never seen it before. Eventually, more and more Americans will finally wake up to a harsh reality. The safety nets for the poor are gone, gutted. The national debt has exploded, and the interest payments on that debt will be unpayable. And for those people who voted for Donald Trump wondered where all the money went, they will find it vaporized in the atmosphere above the Strait of Hormuz. When the local pharmacy closes, when the hospital wait times double, when the food bank lines wrap around the block, the political theater is going to collapse. You cannot feed your family with a Patriot missile. So that's the data. And here's my commentary. As a new urban explorer, I spend a lot of time walking through the forgotten parts of America. I see the abandoned factories. I hike through towns where the main street is boarded up and the only thing thriving is the local dollar store. When I look at the receipts from this war, it makes me sick to my stomach. We have politicians convincing the American public, convincing good, hard-working, faithful people that true strength is projected out of the barrel of a multi-million-dollar weapons system thousands of miles away. But true national strength doesn't come from your military or a war. It starts at home. It starts with an economy that doesn't bankrupt its seniors. It starts with health care that doesn't force people to choose between medicine and groceries. We are being told to tighten our belts by the exact same people handing out blank checks to defense contractors. The hypocrisy isn't just frustrating, it's financially fatal. The math is a clear signal, and right now the ledger is flashing red. Once again, thanks for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy our content, like and share the video, and remember, love your neighbor as yourself. And I'll see you next time right here on Clear Signal.